My husband emptied our daughter's entire college fund to give money to his best friend's daughter for her startup business, and when I found out, he said his friend needed him more, so I kicked him out and his own mother sued him for trust fund fraud. My husband Dean, 43M, and I, 42F, live in a nice house in the suburbs with our daughter Skylar, who just turned 16. Dean is 43 and works in finance. I work as a nurse at the local hospital. We have what most people would call a comfortable life. The house we live in is called Riverside Estate, and it belongs to my mother-in-law Martha, who is 63 years old. She bought this property decades ago and has been letting us stay here since we got married. Dean has a childhood friend named Marilyn, 43F. They grew up together in the same neighborhood and were inseparable as kids. Marilyn has a daughter named Celine, who is 18 years old. Marilyn's husband passed away about 7 years ago from a sudden heart attack. He was only 40 when he died. After his death, Dean started spending more and more time with Marilyn and Celine. He said he wanted to help them through their grief. I understood that at first, because losing someone that young is terrible. But over the years, things started to feel off. Dean would cancel plans with Skylar to go help Marilyn with something. He missed Skylar's piano recitals and school events because Marilyn needed him to fix something at her house or drive Celine somewhere. When I brought it up, he would get defensive and say I was being insensitive to a widow and a fatherless child. He made me feel guilty for even questioning it. Last month, Skylar came home with her report card. She had straight A's again. She has been an excellent student since elementary school and never gives us any trouble. She sat down at the kitchen table and started talking about college applications. She said she wanted to apply to some good universities, but she knew they were expensive. She looked at Dean and asked him directly if we had saved enough money for her education. Dean went completely silent. He just stared at his plate and did not say anything. Skylar kept talking and said she knew our income was too high for her to get financial aid, so she was relying on whatever we had saved up. I jumped in and told her not to worry. I said her father had been putting money aside for years and that he even took some money out of his trust fund last year to make sure she would have everything she needed. Dean still did not say anything. He got up from the table and went to the bathroom. Skylar looked confused, but she seemed relieved. She hugged me and went upstairs to her room. I waited for Dean to come back. When he finally did, I asked him what was wrong. He said he was tired. I did not believe him. I told him Skylar deserved to know the truth about her college fund and asked him to tell me exactly how much we had saved. He sat back down and put his head in his hands. Then he told me there was no money. Not a single dollar. I thought I heard him wrong. I asked him to repeat what he said. He looked at me and said the college fund was empty. He had given all of it to Celine for her business expenses. She had wanted to start some kind of online boutique and needed startup money. Dean had been transferring money to Marilyn's account for months to help Celine get her business off the ground. I could not speak for a few minutes. I just sat there trying to process what he had just told me. Then I asked him how much money he had given them. He said it was around $60,000. That was everything we had saved for Skylar since she was born. Plus the $20,000 he took from his trust fund last year. $80,000 gone. I told him he needed to show me the bank statements right then. He tried to argue, but I said I would pack my bags and leave if he did not prove it to me. He went upstairs and came back with his laptop. He pulled up the bank records and I saw it all. Transfers to Marilyn every single month for the past 2 years. Thousands of dollars at a time. It was not just the college fund. He had been sending her money for rent, groceries, car payments, and whatever else she needed. I asked him why he would do this. He said Marilyn was struggling after her husband died and that Celine deserved a chance to build something for herself. I reminded him that Skylar also deserved a chance and that she was his daughter. He said he would figure something out for Skylar, but that Marilyn and Celine needed him more right now. He actually said that. He said they needed him more than his own child. I did not sleep that night. I kept thinking about all the times he had chosen Marilyn over Skylar. All the missed events. All the excuses. The next morning, I told Skylar the truth. I could not lie to her. She needed to know what her father had done. She sat on the couch and listened to everything. When I finished, she got up and went to her room. She did not cry in front of me. She just left. She stayed in her room for the rest of the day. When Dean came home from work, she would not even look at him. Dean tried to talk to her, but she told him to stay away from her. She said she did not want anything from him anymore. He tried to explain himself, but she cut him off and said he had made his choice. Then she went back to her room and locked the door. Dean stood outside her door for almost an hour trying to get her to open it. She never did. That same week, I drove to Martha's house. She lives about 30 minutes away in a smaller place she bought after her husband died. She has always been kind to me and I knew she would want to know what her son had done. I sat in her living room and told her everything. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and let out a long breath. Then she told me something I did not know. She said this was not the first time Dean had done something like this. When he was 18, he had a college fund set up by his father. His father had saved money for years to make sure Dean could go to a good school. But Dean took all of that money and spent it on a car and an apartment for a girlfriend he had at the time. He lied to his father and said he needed the money for tuition and books. His father found out months later when the college called asking why Dean had never enrolled. Martha said her husband was devastated. He felt betrayed. After that, he set up a trust fund for Dean with very strict rules. Dean could only access the money for specific reasons and had to provide proof of what he was using it for. When Martha's husband died 10 years ago, he left everything to Martha. The house we live in, the trust fund, all of it. Martha controls it all now. She said her husband did this because he did not trust Dean to manage money responsibly. I asked her what Dean had told her when he took money from the trust last year. She said he told her it was for Skylar's college expenses. He said he wanted to add it to her fund to make sure she had enough. Martha approved the withdrawal because she thought it was going to her granddaughter. But now she knew the truth. Dean had committed fraud. He had lied about the purpose of the withdrawal and used the money for someone else. Martha said she could sue him to get the money back. I went home and confronted Dean again. I told him what his mother had said. He exploded. He started yelling at me for going behind his back and telling his mother about our problems. He said I had no right to involve her. I told him he had no right to steal from his own daughter. He said the house was his and I could not tell him what to do. I reminded him that the house belonged to Martha, not him. He went quiet after that. I told him he needed to leave. He refused at first. He said he was not going anywhere. I pulled out my phone and said I would call Martha right now and have her come over to tell him herself. He grabbed his jacket and walked out. He did not even pack a bag. He just left. I found out later that he went straight to Marilyn's house and has been staying there ever since. For the next few days, he sent me text messages calling me names. He said I was being unreasonable and that I had turned his own mother against him. He said I was ruining his life. I did not respond to any of the messages. I was too busy trying to help Skylar get through this. She stopped eating regular meals. She would only come out of her room to go to school. She stopped talking about college. She stopped talking about anything. 2 weeks after Dean left, I sat down with Skylar and told her we would figure out the college situation. I said I would pick up extra shifts at the hospital and that her grandmother was on our side. Skylar just nodded. She did not say much. She has always been a quiet kid, but this was different. She was shutting down completely. I kept replaying everything in my head. All the years of Dean putting Marilyn first. All the times I defended him to other people who questioned why he spent so much time at Marilyn's house. I remembered when Skylar was in 8th grade and she won an award for a science project. Dean promised he would be there for the ceremony. But the day of the event, Marilyn called and said her car broke down and she needed a ride to pick up Celine from a friend's house. Dean left to help Marilyn and missed the entire ceremony. When he came home, he said it was an emergency. I believed him then. I do not know why I believed him. Now I was sitting in this house with my daughter who would not speak and my husband who had chosen another family over us. I started going through all our financial documents to see what else he might have hidden. I found more transfers. Small amounts here and there to Marilyn over the past 7 years. It added up to thousands more. He had been doing this since Marilyn's husband died. He had been supporting them this entire time while telling me we needed to be careful with money. Martha called me a few days later. She said she had spoken to a lawyer about the trust fund situation. The lawyer confirmed that Dean had committed fraud by lying about the purpose of the withdrawal. Martha could sue him and force him to repay the money. She asked me what I wanted to do. I told her I wanted a divorce. She said she would support whatever decision I made. I filed for divorce the next day. I hired the lawyer that Martha recommended. He was expensive, but Martha said she would help cover the costs. Dean found out about the divorce when the papers were served to him at his office. His co-workers were there when it happened. He called me that night and begged me to reconsider. He said he had made a mistake and that he wanted to fix things. I asked him if he had the $80,000 to give back to Skylar. He said no. I hung up. Update 1: Dean has been trying to contact me nonstop since the divorce papers were served. He calls from different numbers because I blocked his original number. He sends emails. He showed up at the hospital last week while I was working. Security had to escort him out. He keeps saying he wants to talk and that I am being unreasonable. I have not responded to any of it. Martha called me 2 days ago and said her lawyer sent Dean a formal demand letter. The letter stated that Dean had 30 days to repay the $20,000 he took from the trust fund under false pretenses. If he did not repay it, Martha would file a lawsuit against him for fraud. Dean called his mother after he received the letter. Martha told me he cried on the phone and begged her not to sue him. He said he did not have the money to pay her back. Martha told him that was not her problem. Skylar has been doing slightly better. She started eating regular meals again. She still does not talk much, but at least she is coming out of her room more often. Last weekend, Martha took Skylar out for lunch and then shopping. Martha bought her a new laptop for school. Skylar came home with a laptop and actually smiled for the first time in weeks. She went up to her room and I heard her typing on the keyboard. I do not know what she was working on, but it was good to hear her doing something normal. Yesterday, something unexpected happened. Celine reached out to Skylar through social media. She sent her a message asking why her dad was living on their couch and why everyone seemed upset. Skylar did not respond right away. She came downstairs and asked me what she should say. I told her to tell the truth if she wanted to. She went back upstairs and I assumed she told Celine everything because an hour later, Celine called my phone. Celine said she had no idea where the money for her business came from. She thought her mother had saved it up over the years. She said Marilyn had told her that the money was from her late father's life insurance policy. Celine sounded genuinely shocked. She kept apologizing and saying she would never have accepted the money if she knew it was meant for Skylar's college fund. She asked if there was anything she could do to make it right. I did not know what to tell her. It was not her fault that Dean and Marilyn had lied to her. But the money was still gone. I told her I appreciated her calling but that this was between the adults. She said she understood. Before she hung up, she said she was going to confront her mother about this. I told her to be careful. She said she would. 2 hours after that phone call, my phone rang again. This time it was Marilyn. She was yelling so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. She said I had poisoned her daughter against her. She said I was a bitter woman who could not stand to see her husband help someone in need. She said Dean was a good man and that I was ruining his life because I was jealous of their friendship. I let her finish her rant and then I told her that Dean had stolen money that was meant for his daughter's education. I told her that he had lied to his own mother to get money from a trust fund. I told her that she had been complicit in all of it by accepting money that was not his to give. Marilyn went quiet for a moment. Then she said that Dean had told her the money was his to use however he wanted. She said he told her that he had plenty saved up for Skylar and that helping Celine was not taking anything away from his daughter. I told her that was a lie. I told her there was no college fund left for Skylar because every penny had gone to her and Celine. Marilyn did not say anything after that. She just hung up. That night, Dean showed up at the house. He started banging on the front door and yelling my name. Skylar heard him from upstairs and came down. She looked scared. I told her to stay inside and I went out to deal with him. He was standing on the porch looking like he had not slept in days. His shirt was wrinkled and he had not shaved. He started talking fast and saying that Marilyn had kicked him out. He said Celine had given her an ultimatum. Either Marilyn told Dean to leave or Celine would cut off contact with her mother completely. Dean said he had nowhere else to go. He asked if he could stay in the guest room just for a few nights until he figured something out. I told him no. He tried to walk past me into the house but I blocked him. He said the house was still technically his home. I reminded him again that the house belonged to Martha and that she had already told him he was not welcome here. He started getting aggressive and raising his voice. A neighbor must have heard because their porch light turned on. Dean saw it and backed off. He walked back to his car and drove away. I called Martha right after and told her what happened. She said she would have her lawyer file for a restraining order if Dean showed up again. She also said the divorce lawyer was moving forward quickly. Because Dean had committed fraud with the trust fund, Martha's lawyer was working with my divorce lawyer to make sure I got a favorable settlement. Martha said the goal was to get back as much of the money as possible and to make sure Dean could not touch anything that belonged to Skylar in the future. The next morning, I got a call from my divorce lawyer. He said Dean's lawyer had reached out and wanted to negotiate. Dean was willing to agree to an 80-20 split of our marital assets with me getting the larger share. He would also agree to repay the $20,000 to Martha's trust fund over time through wage garnishment if necessary. In exchange, he wanted Martha to drop the fraud lawsuit. My lawyer asked what I wanted to do. I said I wanted the 80%. I wanted the money repaid. But I also wanted Martha to decide for herself whether to drop the lawsuit. It was her money that Dean had stolen and she had every right to pursue it. My lawyer said he would communicate that to Dean's lawyer. He also said that based on Dean's financial situation, it did not look like he had much left anyway. Most of his savings had already gone to Marilyn and Celine. Whatever was left would be split between us, but I would get the majority. Skylar asked me that night if her father was ever going to apologize to her. I told her I did not know. She said she did not think he would. She said he probably still thought he did the right thing by helping Celine. I did not argue with her because she was probably right. Dean had always put Marilyn and Celine first. Even now, when he had lost everything, he probably still believed he was the hero of their story. Update 2: The divorce moved faster than I expected. Dean signed the settlement agreement 3 weeks ago. I got 80% of our savings, which was not much because most of it was already gone. But it was something. Martha decided to move forward with the fraud lawsuit. She said she wanted to set an example and make sure Dean understood there were consequences for lying. The court ruled in her favor last week. Dean has to repay the $20,000 plus legal fees. The payments will come directly out of his paycheck every month for the next 5 years. Dean is living in a small apartment now on the other side of town. He tried to reach out to Skylar a few times through email but she never responded. She told me she did not want to see him or talk to him. She said maybe one day she would change her mind but right now she just wanted to focus on school and her future. I told her that was her choice to make and I would support whatever she decided. Martha has been incredible through all of this. She set up a new education fund for Skylar and put $50,000 into it. She said it was money she had been planning to leave to Skylar in her will anyway, but she wanted to make sure Skylar had access to it now when she actually needed it. Skylar cried when Martha told her. It was the first time I had seen her cry since this whole thing started. She hugged her grandmother and thanked her over and over. Last month, something happened that I did not expect. Celine reached out again. This time she asked if she could meet with Skylar in person. Skylar asked me what I thought. I told her it was up to her. She decided to meet with Celine at a coffee shop near our house. I drove her there and waited in the car. They talked for about an hour. When Skylar came back to the car, she said Celine had offered to pay back the money for the business. Celine had apparently shut down the online boutique. She said she could not run it knowing where the money had come from. She had taken a job at a retail store and was putting aside money from every paycheck. She said it would take her a long time, but she wanted to make it right. Skylar told her she appreciated the gesture but that it was not her responsibility to fix what the adults had done. Celine started crying and said she felt terrible. Skylar said they talked for a while longer and then hugged before leaving. Skylar told me she did not hate Celine. She said Celine was just as much a victim of Dean and Marilyn's choices as she was. I agreed with her. Celine had been lied to just like the rest of us. Skylar said she did not know if they would stay in touch, but she was glad they had talked. It gave her some closure. Marilyn, on the other hand, has not reached out at all. I heard through someone who knows her that she is angry and still blames me for everything. She apparently told people that I broke up a lifelong friendship and turned everyone against Dean. I do not care what she thinks. She was complicit in everything Dean did. She accepted money that was not his to give, and she lied to her own daughter about where it came from. Martha told me last week that Dean had tried to call her and apologize. She said he sounded pathetic. He told her he realized he had made terrible choices and that he had destroyed his family. Martha said she told him that his apology meant nothing if he could not undo the damage he caused. She said he started crying on the phone and begging for forgiveness. She told him she would think about it, but that she would never forget what he did to Skylar. The divorce was finalized 3 days ago. I am officially no longer married to Dean. Skylar and I went out to dinner that night to mark the occasion. It was not a celebration exactly. It was just the two of us moving forward. We sat at a small Italian restaurant and talked about her college plans. She said she wanted to study engineering. She said she had been researching schools and had found a few that she liked. I told her I was proud of her for not giving up on her dreams despite everything that had happened. Skylar asked me if I thought her father would ever change. I told her I did not know. I said people can change, but they have to want to. Dean would have to hit rock bottom and really understand what he lost before he could become a better person. Skylar said she hoped he would figure it out someday, but that she was not going to wait around for it to happen. She said she had her own life to live. We went home that night and Skylar went straight to her room to work on her college applications. I sat in the living room and looked around the house. This place had been my home for 18 years. It had seen so many memories. Birthday parties, holidays, quiet Sunday mornings. But it had also seen years of neglect and lies. I thought about how Dean had slowly prioritized another family over his own. How he had missed so many moments with Skylar because he was too busy being a father figure to Celine. I did not cry. I just sat there and let myself feel the weight of it all. Then I got up and started planning for the future. Skylar would be going to college in 2 years. I needed to keep working and saving. Martha had helped us, but I did not want to rely on her for everything. I wanted to build something stable for Skylar and for myself. Update 3: It has been 4 months since the divorce was finalized. Skylar is doing well. She finished her college applications last month and has already heard back from 2 schools. Both accepted her and offered partial scholarships. She is waiting to hear from a few more before she makes her final decision. Martha has been helping her review the financial aid packages and figure out which school makes the most sense. Skylar has not spoken to Dean at all. He tried to show up at her school one day a few weeks ago. The school called me immediately and I went down there. Dean was standing outside the main entrance waiting for Skylar to come out. I told him to leave. He said he just wanted to talk to his daughter for 5 minutes. I said Skylar did not want to see him and that if he did not leave, I would call the police. He left without causing a scene. Dean reached out to me last week through email. He said he had been going to meetings for people with financial problems. He said he was trying to get his life together and that he wanted to rebuild his relationship with Skylar. He asked if I would talk to her and see if she would be willing to meet with him. I forwarded the email to Skylar and told her it was her decision. She read it and said no. She said she was not ready and might never be ready. I told her that was fine. Martha has been helping me with the house. She said she wants Skylar and me to stay here as long as we need to. She also said that when she passes away, the house will go to Skylar. She had her will updated to reflect that. She said she wanted to make sure Skylar had something solid to build her future on. I thanked her but told her she did not have to do that. She said she knew she did not have to, but she wanted to. She said Skylar was her granddaughter and she was going to take care of her the way Dean should have. Marilyn and Celine moved to another state about 2 months ago. I do not know all the details, but I heard they wanted a fresh start away from everything that happened here. Celine sent Skylar a message before they left saying she was sorry again and that she hoped Skylar had a good life. Skylar responded and wished her well. That was the last contact they had. I ran into one of Dean's old coworkers at the grocery store last week. He asked how I was doing and I said I was fine. He told me Dean had been demoted at work. Apparently, the public serving of divorce papers and the subsequent lawsuit had damaged his reputation at the company. He was no longer in a senior position and was making significantly less money than before. The coworker said Dean looked miserable every day at the office. I did not feel bad for him. He made his choices. Skylar turned 17 last month. We had a small party at the house with Martha and a few of Skylar's close friends. It was simple but nice. Skylar seemed happy. She blew out the candles on her cake and made a wish. I asked her what she wished for, but she said she could not tell me or it would not come true. Later that night, after everyone left, she came and sat next to me on the couch. She said she was glad we were out of that situation. She said she felt like she could breathe again. I have been working extra shifts at the hospital to build up savings. It is exhausting, but it feels good to know I am doing something productive. I have also been putting together a plan for the next few years. Once Skylar goes to college, I will have more time to figure out what I want to do with my life. Maybe I will go back to school myself. Maybe I will just keep working and save up for retirement. I do not know yet. But the important thing is that I have options now. Dean sent another email 2 days ago. This one was shorter. He said he understood that Skylar did not want to see him but that he hoped she knew he loved her. He said he was sorry for everything and that he would spend the rest of his life trying to make up for his mistakes. I did not forward this email to Skylar. I deleted it. She does not need to hear his apologies anymore. She needs to focus on her future. Skylar and I were sitting at the kitchen table yesterday morning. She was working on a scholarship essay and I was looking at the hospital schedule for next month. We did not talk much. We just sat there together in the quiet. It was peaceful. There was no tension. No waiting for the other shoe to drop. Just two people getting on with their lives. Martha called later that day and asked if we wanted to come over for dinner. We drove to her house and spent the evening there. We ate and talked about Skylar's college plans. Martha told stories about when Dean was young. Some of them were funny. Some of them explained a lot about why he turned out the way he did. Skylar listened but did not say much. I think she is still processing everything. We left Martha's house around 9 and drove home. Skylar went straight to her room to finish her homework. I sat in the living room and turned on the TV. I did not really watch it. I just needed the background noise. I thought about everything that had happened over the past several months. The betrayal. The lies. The legal battles. All of it. And I realized that I was not angry anymore. I was just tired. Tired of thinking about Dean and what he did. Tired of wondering if things could have been different. I turned off the TV and went upstairs. Skylar's light was still on. I knocked on her door and she told me to come in. She was lying on her bed with her laptop. I asked her if she needed anything. She said no. I told her goodnight and started to leave. She called my name and I turned around. She said, "Thank you." I asked her what for. She said for not giving up. For fighting for her. For making sure she still had a future. I told her she did not need to thank me. She said she wanted to anyway. I closed her door and went to my room. I got ready for bed and lay down. I stared at the ceiling for a while thinking about what Skylar had said. I did not fight for her because I was brave or strong. I fought for her because she was my daughter and that was what I was supposed to do. Dean had forgotten that somewhere along the way. He had forgotten that his first responsibility was to his own child. And now he was paying the price for that. The divorce is over. The lawsuits are settled. Dean is out of our lives. Skylar and I are moving forward. That is all there is to it. No big revelations. No dramatic reconciliations. Just two people rebuilding their lives after someone they trusted tore everything apart. And that is enough. Now let's move to the next story. Story 2. After years of abuse, I finally got evidence when my wife threatened me with a knife in front of our son. I got a restraining order against her and the judge gave me full custody of kids. I never thought I would be writing something like this. The situation at home has reached a breaking point, and I'm looking for advice from anyone who has been through something similar. I'm John, 29M, and I've been married to Rebecca, 30F, for 10 years. We have 2 children, Ellie, 13F, and Tristan, 8M. For years, things were mostly manageable, but over the past year, Rebecca's behavior has gotten completely out of control. Last night we were having another one of our arguments, this one starting because I didn't fold the laundry correctly. Rebecca threw a basket of clean clothes on the floor and started stomping on them. When I asked her to stop, she screamed about how I never do anything right. I walked away to take a break, and that's when she grabbed the kitchen knife. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up and explain how we got here. Rebecca and I met in college. I was in the ROTC program preparing for a military career, and she was studying psychology. The first couple of years of marriage were good. After I graduated, I joined the military full-time, and Rebecca worked various jobs. Ellie was born during our second year together, and Tristan came along 5 years later. Looking back, I can see the warning signs started early. Rebecca always had to be right. She'd argue about the smallest things, from how I loaded the dishwasher to the way I talked to her parents. Nothing was ever good enough. I chalked it up to stress from raising kids while I was often away for training. Things got significantly worse after Tristan was born. Rebecca started having these rage episodes where she would scream for hours over minor issues. She began criticizing Ellie constantly, nitpicking everything from her homework to how she cleaned her room. When Ellie turned 12 last year, she started standing up for herself, which only made Rebecca angrier. I find myself constantly stepping between them. Rebecca sees this as me taking Ellie's side and calls me a terrible father for not backing her up. The arguments between Rebecca and me have increased to 3 or 4 times a week, and they drag on for hours. I work 45 hours a week in my military position, plus I'm taking part-time classes for a degree and studying for a promotion. Despite this schedule, Rebecca constantly complains that I don't help enough around the house. If I follow her instructions exactly, she criticizes me for being too slow. If I take initiative, she says I didn't do it right. Last month, I was getting ready for work when Rebecca started an argument about grocery shopping. I told her I had to leave or I'd be late. She blocked the door and yelled that my job was always more important than her. I tried explaining that my job supports our family, and being late could result in serious consequences. She wouldn't listen. The situation with the kids is what worries me most. Ellie avoids her mother whenever possible. Her grades have dropped, and she shows little interest in activities she used to love. Rebecca blames this on ADHD, which a doctor diagnosed recently, but I'm convinced Ellie's problems stem from the constant criticism and tension at home. Tristan was always Rebecca's favorite. She was gentler with him, but lately, he's been having accidents during the day, wetting himself even though he's been toilet trained for years. I believe it's from the stress of living in our household. He often hides in his room when Rebecca and Ellie are fighting. About a year ago, Rebecca threw a remote control at the TV during an argument and broke the screen. When I confronted her about it, she said it was my fault for making her angry. I finally stood my ground and said that I didn't throw anything, so it wasn't my fault. She seemed shocked that I didn't accept the blame. I've tried everything to improve our relationship. I've planned date nights, listened to her problems, and tried to be more attentive. Nothing works. Rebecca admits she has some issues with anger but refuses to see a therapist or counselor. I've completely lost any feelings for her. I stay solely for the kids, but even that reason is weakening as I watch the negative effects she has on them. To avoid confrontation, I've started lying about my feelings or agreeing with her just to end arguments faster. Now, back to last night. After Rebecca stomped on the laundry, I walked away to cool down. She followed me to the kitchen, grabbed a butcher knife from the block, and pointed it at me. She told me to get out of the house or she would make me leave. Tristan came into the kitchen at that moment, saw the knife, and ran away in panic. He hit his head on the doorframe as he fled. That was it for me. I called the police. While waiting for them to arrive, I managed to record video of Rebecca still holding the knife and threatening me. When the officers got there, they viewed the video and spoke to the kids, who confirmed what happened. They arrested Rebecca for domestic violence. I don't know what to do now. I plan to file for divorce, but I'm worried about custody. I don't want the kids to stay with Rebecca, but I've heard the courts often favor mothers. I'm scheduled to take a civilian job and move to another state by the end of the year. Rebecca has been planning to come with me and bring the kids, but after last night, that's not happening. What rights do I have in this situation? How can I protect my children? Has anyone been through something similar who can offer advice? I'm desperate for guidance. Update 1. It's been 3 weeks since the knife incident, and a lot has happened. I want to thank everyone who commented on my original post. Your advice and support have been invaluable during this nightmare. After Rebecca was arrested, the court issued a protective order for me and Tristan. She spent the night in jail and was released the next day. She immediately began calling family members from both sides to get them to pressure me into dropping the charges. Her parents called me repeatedly, insisting that I was overreacting and that couples fight all the time. They claimed I was destroying our family over one mistake. They conveniently ignored the years of abuse and the fact that she threatened me with a deadly weapon in front of our son. My own parents were more supportive but still suggested I work things out for the sake of the children. They live across the country and haven't witnessed Rebecca's behavior firsthand, so they don't fully understand the situation. The most surprising reaction came from Ellie. Instead of being relieved, she was furious with me for calling the police. She demanded I drop the charges so Rebecca could come home and things could go back to normal. This shocked me because Ellie has been a frequent target of Rebecca's anger. I think Ellie is so used to the dysfunctional environment that the change scares her more than staying in an abusive situation. Tristan, on the other hand, who has always been Rebecca's favorite, told me he's afraid of his mother and doesn't want to see her again. Hearing that from my 8-year-old son broke my heart. Rebecca has called me several times despite the protective order prohibiting contact. She claims she wants to work on our marriage and promises to get professional help. She even used the word shrink, which she's always mocked in the past. I'm skeptical of this sudden change of heart and suspect it's a manipulation tactic. I worry she might be trying to get me to drop the protective order so she can take the kids and flee before the divorce proceedings start. So far, she hasn't emptied our bank accounts or taken other drastic measures, which makes me wonder if she might be sincere. But after years of manipulation, I can't trust her words anymore. I've consulted with a lawyer who specializes in domestic violence cases. The initial consultation was encouraging, but the financial reality is daunting. Legal fees are expensive, and our finances were already strained. I'm looking into debt consolidation or possibly bankruptcy to manage the situation. I've also reached out to several free legal assistance programs to see if I qualify for help. The kids are struggling with the sudden changes. Ellie refuses to talk about what happened and gets angry whenever I mention therapy. Tristan has nightmares and has started sleeping in my room. I've extended his therapy sessions through our insurance and I'm trying to convince Ellie to attend as well. The practical aspects of life without Rebecca are challenging but manageable. I've adjusted my work schedule to be home when the kids get back from school. Cooking, cleaning, and laundry take up most of my free time, but the house is notably calmer without the constant threat of Rebecca's outbursts. Yesterday, I received notice of a hearing for a permanent protective order. My lawyer advised me to gather all evidence of past abuse, including text messages, emails, and witnesses who have seen Rebecca's behavior. Fortunately, I saved the video of her with a knife, which is the strongest piece of evidence. Rebecca has been staying with her sister, who lives about 30 minutes away. She's been texting Ellie constantly, which I can't prevent since Ellie has her own phone. I've considered taking the phone away, but that would only increase Ellie's resentment toward me. Last week, Rebecca showed up at Ellie's school during lunch. The school called me immediately because they were aware of the protective order. By the time I arrived, Rebecca had left, but Ellie was upset that she hadn't been allowed to leave with her mother. The school has now been instructed not to allow Rebecca to have contact with either child. The most difficult part of this situation is the emotional toll on the kids. Tristan asks every night if his mom is coming back, and I don't know what to tell him. Ellie accuses me of ruining their lives and spends most of her time in her room. I try to explain that what Rebecca did was dangerous and wrong, but Ellie doesn't want to hear it. Meanwhile, Rebecca's family continues to pressure me to reconcile. Her brother called yesterday and suggested that Rebecca and I attend marriage counseling. When I mentioned the knife incident, he said, "Everyone makes mistakes." I ended the call and blocked his number. My lawyer warned me that Rebecca might try to paint me as the abusive one in court. She advised me to document all interactions and to avoid responding to provocations. This is particularly difficult with Ellie relaying messages between us, but I'm doing my best to maintain boundaries. The preliminary hearing for the domestic violence charge is scheduled for next week. I'm nervous about seeing Rebecca in court and worried about how the judge will perceive the situation. My lawyer seems confident that with the video evidence and police report, the protective order will be extended. I'm taking each day as it comes, focusing on the kids' well-being and preparing for the legal battles ahead. The support from this community has been a lifeline during the darkest moments. I'll update again after the hearing. Update 2, the permanent protective order hearing happened last week, and I want to share the outcome and what's been happening since then. I attended the hearing with my lawyer, while Rebecca showed up without legal representation. This surprised me, as her family has the means to hire an attorney. Perhaps she thought she could charm the judge on her own. My lawyer presented the video evidence of the knife incident, along with documentation of Rebecca's pattern of abusive behavior toward me and the children. I also had a written statement from Tristan's therapist detailing the impact of witnessing domestic violence. Rebecca's strategy was to showcase her recent efforts at self-improvement. She brought proof of attending therapy sessions and taking anger management classes. I noticed she maintained better control of herself during the hearing than I've seen in years. No outbursts, no dramatic displays of emotion, just a calm presentation of her version of events. The judge listened to both sides and then made his ruling. He granted me primary custody of both children and gave me sole access to our house. The protective order was extended for 2 years, the maximum period allowed. Rebecca was granted supervised visitation only, with a court-appointed supervisor present during these visits. The judge also limited contact between Rebecca and me to discussions about visitation and necessary financial matters, since we have several co-signed debts that need to be managed. After the hearing, Rebecca immediately began violating the protective order by calling me daily. She pleaded with me to drop the order, using phrases like "you're being so cold" and "any reasonable husband would fight for his wife." Each time, I reminded her that she was violating the order, but I haven't reported these violations yet because I'm waiting for a rent payment to clear from our joint checking account. Last weekend, I had a serious conversation with Rebecca about the situation. I explained that I needed therapy myself because I might have PTSD from her actions. I told her it was ironic that I'd prepared for PTSD from military service, but instead, I got it from my own wife's behavior. This seemed to break through her defenses. She cried and admitted that the situation was her fault. She expressed remorse for hurting me and the children. This was the first time she'd ever taken responsibility without adding qualifiers or blaming me. Usually, when I brought up her behavior, she would tell me to deal with it or man up. During this conversation, she claimed she didn't remember some incidents of abuse, including one that was shown in court. I'm skeptical of this convenient memory loss, but I can't prove whether she's lying or genuinely doesn't recall. I made it clear to Rebecca that there is zero chance of reconciliation. I told her that divorce papers would be served soon, and she needed to prepare for that reality. She seemed to accept this, though I can't be sure if she truly understands that our marriage is over. Managing our joint finances has been complicated. I can handle most of our debts, but there's one credit card that's challenging. Rebecca has agreed to make payments on this account, but I'm monitoring it closely to ensure she follows through. The kids continue to have mixed reactions. Ellie still blames me for the separation and refuses to discuss Rebecca's behavior. Tristan is doing better with continued therapy but still has nightmares occasionally. He hasn't seen Rebecca since the knife incident and expresses no desire to do so. I've established a new routine for our household. The kids have clear responsibilities, and we've set up regular family activities to maintain some sense of normalcy. The atmosphere at home is noticeably calmer without the constant tension of wondering what might trigger Rebecca's next outburst. My lawyer has prepared the divorce paperwork, which will be filed next week. She warned me that Rebecca might escalate her behavior when served with the papers, so we've developed a safety plan for various scenarios. I'm taking things day by day, focusing on being the stable parent my children need. I'll update again when there are significant developments. Update 3, it's been 6 months since my last update, and I wanted to provide a final update on how things have turned out. Looking back at my original post, I'm amazed at how much has changed. After the permanent protective order was granted, Rebecca's behavior spiraled further out of control. Initially, with her father staying with her for support, she maintained some stability. She kept her job, found a place to live with roommates, and seemed to be managing her finances. When her father left, things deteriorated quickly. She made a series of poor decisions that antagonized her roommates, eventually leading to her eviction after another incident involving the police. The morning of her court appearance for the assault charges and protective order violations, Rebecca called me threatening suicide. She said she had pills and was going to take them all. I urged her not to do anything drastic and contacted a suicide hotline, who advised me to call emergency services. When the police arrived at her location, she denied making any threats and accused me of calling them to make her late for court. That same night, after her court appearance where she received probation, she showed up at our house. She pounded on the door, demanding to see the children to say goodbye before another supposed suicide attempt. I refused to let her in and called the police again. She left before they arrived but was apprehended the next day and sent to jail. This second police involvement in 2 days prompted her roommates to evict her. Since then, Rebecca has made numerous suicide threats. I no longer take these seriously, as I've recognized them as manipulation tactics. My therapist has strongly reinforced that I need to maintain firm boundaries and never allow Rebecca back into our lives. He said that in his 30 years of practice, our case was among the most severe he had encountered. I've blocked Rebecca's phone number and removed her from all social media platforms. For necessary communications about visitation, I record everything to maintain documentation. We moved to a new apartment when our lease expired, providing an additional layer of separation and security. The divorce was finalized 3 months ago. Rebecca eventually pled guilty to misdemeanor assault and multiple violations of the restraining order, receiving suspended sentences. The court maintained my primary custody of the children, with Rebecca allowed supervised visitation only. My personal growth during this time has been significant. I've developed greater self-confidence and have learned to manage my depression effectively. I experience more positive thoughts and feel better equipped to handle emotional challenges. Looking back at how bad the situation was, I feel immense relief at having escaped. I honestly can't think of many positive outcomes if I had stayed. My view of Rebecca has changed completely. I used to think of her as intelligent and thoughtful, but now I see that she's incapable of empathy or understanding other perspectives. She creates a false image to manipulate people around her. Co-parenting remains challenging. Rebecca continues to send emails that my attorney describes as court gold due to their incriminating nature. Despite her difficult behavior, we've managed to settle many divorce-related matters outside of court. One recent example of our ongoing conflicts involves visitation scheduling. Rebecca creates unnecessary drama by refusing to clearly state when she wants her supervised visits. When I ask for clarification on times, she accuses me of obstructing her rights and demands that I search through her previous emails to find the information, calling my requests annoying. In one instance, I checked the emails from the date she mentioned and found 6 lengthy, critical messages, with the visitation time buried in the third email, second paragraph. I pointed out that if she genuinely cared about seeing the children, providing the times clearly shouldn't be an issue. I've implemented guidelines requesting that visitation-related emails be brief and focused, which she resists. Both children continue to attend therapy and are doing well overall. Ellie has become better at expressing her emotions and maintains mostly positive feelings toward my side of the family. She still wants no contact with her mother and doesn't participate in visitations. Tristan is required to attend visitation with his mother. During these visits, Rebecca attempts to turn him against me, which creates some difficulties when he returns home. I'm working closely with his therapist to address these issues, and Tristan has shown significant improvement over the past month. His daytime wedding issues have resolved completely. My financial situation remains somewhat strained but is manageable. I've established a budget that allows us to live comfortably within our means, and I expect our finances to improve over the next year as I progress in my civilian career. For anyone in a similar situation, I want to offer some advice based on my experience. First, gather evidence, preferably video. Abusers are often extremely persuasive, but solid evidence, especially video or audio recordings, is crucial in legal proceedings. Review your state or country laws regarding surveillance, restraining orders, and protective orders. Most lawyers offer a free initial consultation, which can provide valuable guidance. Second, document everything. Record threats, manipulative tactics, and false accusations. Courts and police need this context to understand the pattern of abuse. In my case, Rebecca often revealed her plans during arguments, providing valuable evidence. Third, be persistent and maintain a proactive attitude. It may seem hopeless at first, but don't give up. The legal system can work, especially with proper documentation and evidence. The past year has been the most challenging of my life, but also the most transformative. The children and I are in a much better place now, both emotionally and physically. I've learned that it's possible to escape an abusive relationship and rebuild a healthier life. Thank you to everyone who provided support and advice throughout this journey. Your guidance helped me navigate some of the darkest moments and gave me the courage to take the necessary steps to protect myself and my children.